iOS Day in APAC. Hello.
Yeah, you can start presenting.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to iOS Day in APAC. My name is Deborah Bennett, and we are so excited to have you all joining and hearing about the latest Google innovations on iOS and have a great lineup of apps product leads to share with you. Please be curious, note your questions for our Q&A session at the end of the presentation, and we can walk through the agenda next. So we're going to go through multiple things here today for our iOS day. First of all, how you can reach your iOS audience effectively with Google, solutions that we're bringing to market so that you can all take advantage to drive performance and better measurement for iOS, new bidding strategies so that you can get your performance that you need and hit your marketing objectives, and then we'll do Q&A and summary and next steps. So the iOS opportunity, let's zoom out. The iOS business overall continues to see double-digit growth year over year as users continue to grow their spend on the platform. At the same time of this growth, iOS measurement has continued to evolve over time. Apple announced a new aggregated measurement tool called App Attribution Kit. ATT adoption has normalized, including Google implementing the ATT prompt on YouTube. More probabilistic measurement and tools that could support however advertisers are relying on their source of truth for measurement. While there are many options and changes, as I just referenced, many may feel uncomfortable, but ignoring iOS users comes at a very large cost. Third-party data from Sensor Tower suggests that iOS users are 5 times more valuable compared to Android users, and 70% of the in-app spending comes from iOS directly from the whole advertising ecosystem. So the iOS app market's growth with increasing advertiser and user investment means that you can't ignore iOS. I think we can all agree that being present for iOS users will drive value for you as an advertiser. So next, let's hear about why iOS on Google can help you achieve your goals. Now I'm going to pass to Josh to talk you through it.
Thanks, Deborah. Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Wilner. I'm a global product lead working on our App Ads iOS business, and I work very closely with our product counterparts to build the right solutions for you. As Deborah mentioned, the iOS space is incredibly important, and I'd love to discuss with you, before we get into some of our product innovations, why we believe Google is a great fit for your media mix and for your investment in iOS. App Campaigns meets users across our multi-billion user inventory sources. We position ourselves as a demand generator that's contrasted with the App Store as a demand harvester. This really highlights our role in influencing user behavior and creating new opportunities for app discovery across these platforms, many of which you're already familiar with. Google Search is incredibly powerful and important on iOS, and we'll talk about some of the characteristics of these platforms right now. Now, our app campaigns are designed to connect you as an advertiser with users across our ad inventories, and our span reaches various channels. And as you can see here, YouTube is a particular channel that we feel very strongly about. Short form video and long form video is incredibly important in reaching your users, and YouTube has a monthly active user base that surpasses that of Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So we continue to invest quite heavily in making YouTube a platform that works for you to reach iOS users. And of course, how can you talk about iOS and reaching iOS users without search specifically, where Google.com has a tremendous amount of users with high intent that are captured for the App Store specifically as well. One key piece that I want to circle in on is digital video inventory across the web. We have YouTube, as I mentioned, with an incredible amount of user base, but we also have AdMob, which is many apps within third parties that you can partner with to reach iOS users across. One of the key pieces that we've invested in more recently from a company perspective is YouTube Shorts. So short form video is increasing in popularity, and we continue to look for how we can uncover advertising use cases within Shorts specifically. YouTube Shorts does offer unique reach, capturing an audience segment that does not overlap significantly with TikTok or Instagram Reels. And this was per a US study that was made. This is a distinct audience that can provide you a new opportunity to expand your reach to tap into new user demographics. And so we continue to drive placements for app campaigns within YouTube Shorts in the future and now within iOS. So now I'll pass it over to Layli to talk about what's new in terms of our product innovations.
Thank you, Josh. I'm Layli. I'm happy to be here, and I would like to walk you through some innovative products that we are having. So whenever we spoke with you, you have two main challenges. One is scaling your iOS app campaigns with desired ROAS and ROI. And the other challenge was, getting proper reporting and measurement of performance within the privacy-centric iOS environment. With on-device measurement, we have been solving for these two pain points by improving campaign performance and improve reports representation APs. You might be familiar with our first variant of on-device measurement using first-party data. Since it was launched in 2023, we partnered with some of the most prominent apps in the world to optimize their campaign performance. With on-device measurement with PII, campaign performance is improved via the observation of additional conversions on iOS, all in a privacy-safe way. The majority of advertisers who implemented on-device measurement with PII have seen a median 19% reduction in CPA. However, there is a limitation with on-device measurement with PII. Our product only works well if many of your users are signed in. Our new solution that I'm going to speak about is on-device measurement with event data, and it is going to benefit all apps, even without signed-in users. Google is extending on-device measurement capabilities with event data, further enhancing conversion tracking and campaign optimization for iOS app campaigns. On-device measurement with Event ID, while protects user privacy, aims to provide advertisers with more comprehensive data and improved campaign performance. In our alpha, we observed a 70% match rate using on-device measurement with Event ID, which is nearly 3 times higher than the match rate we have seen with on-device measurement with PII. We believe that using on-device measurement with Event ID will significantly enhance conversion observability, improve model training for better performance, and improves reporting representation in APs. The two major benefits of on-device measurement with Event ID is improving reporting and improving optimization and performance of campaigns. With that, user privacy remains top of mind across all of our products. With on-device measurement with Event ID, no identity revealed. At no point is the user's identity or IP address or data revealed to Google or any publisher. Similarly, the advertiser will not be able to decrypt and identify any of the users from the data set it receives. It is also private match. Neither the advertiser app, the publisher, nor Google knows which event ID matched. And also data stays separate. Through the multi-party computation process, both the publisher and advertisers secure their data of user information in a way that prevents the other from accessing it. Imagine the publisher and advertisers each put their user data into a lockbox. Neither has the key to open the other box. With ODM event data utilizing a temporary event ID instead of user first-party data. This event ID is used to match conversions and never raw data leaves the user device. Imagine Alex is watching a video on YouTube and sees an ad by the advertiser's Nestle. Alex clicks on the ad and installs the Nestle app. The ad click is registered by YouTube, and the app install is registered by Nestle's GA4F SDK. Alex's identity is separately known to YouTube and to Nestle, but neither party is aware of the interaction she has made with the other. We'll solve for this challenge. The GA4F SDK securely processes Alex's identifier to conceal her data, treating her as part of a larger group of users by hashing and truncating her data. The SDK sends a query to YouTube to determine if it has served an ad to any of a pool of potential individuals who share a common partial hashed identifier with Alex. YouTube searches its records of users who have interacted with Nestle's ads and generates a set of potential matches to those sent by and send it to GA4F SDK. It is impossible to single out Alex because her identifier is one of many in a group that also contains fake IDs for masking purposes. Through the GA4F SDK on the device, Nestle uses the set of encrypted identifier it receives from YouTube to execute its own private set intersections matching process and confirms a match without identifying Alex or linking data to her identity. The GA4F SDK sends the identified information to YouTube about the campaign Nestle ran. This way, Nestle gains a data point that helps measure the value of promoting its app through YouTube, and YouTube can also use the de-identified campaign data for making attribution and training bidding models. We are excited to announce that on-device measurement with Event ID will be available as of tomorrow if you update to the latest version of Google Analytics for Firebase. And please note that bidding to GA4F SDK events will be required to take advantage of performance improvement. With that, I'm going to pass to my friend and colleague Vlad to talk to you about how we are integrating more deeply with our APIs.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Vlad. I'm a global product lead, and I work on measurement and privacy, and I'm excited to bring you some of our latest iOS measurement innovation. With that, in the post-ATT environment, we acknowledge that there's an increased marketer complexity with measurement, and actually what we're here to bring you is aim to simplify measurement, and we're continuing to innovate on this key challenge. iOS app campaigns currently support two main measurement frameworks: Google Ads Model Conversion Reporting and Apple's SKAd network, both with unique characteristics and considerations. SKAd can enable a big picture view of how your campaigns perform across numerous ad networks. It's well suited to use for long-term decisions like planning your overall ad budget. Since SKAd reports take time to process given conversion windows, timers, and other various variables, we recommend checking them about once every 30 days. That means that effectively SKAd reports are less useful for real-time granular insights and optimizations on a daily or weekly basis. Conversion modeling might be more similar to the traditional reporting that you may be used to. Conversion modeling provides a more detailed view of campaign performance to help you make more informed optimization decision, like which ad creatives are working best. So one of the key benefits for conversion modeling is to use it when SKAd reporting data isn't available, specifically to track what users do after they install your app. We also acknowledge that probabilistic and single source of truth reporting, also known as SSOT, is growing in adoption, right? And we are working in 2025 to deepen our integrations with third-party MMP partners on this topic. We're currently significantly underrepresented in these probabilistic reporting views. We actually recommend not to evaluate Google until further support is launched, and we're going to talk about them actually in this session. Let's talk about our newest solution called integrated conversion measurement. Integrated conversion measurement in your mobile attribution partner reporting. We are excited to expand our conversion reporting to provide enhanced event level measurement for your iOS conversions in your MMP reporting surfaces, as well as through server-to-server solutions, such as the App Conversion Tracking API, if you are an advertiser that uses their own BI for attribution purposes. These privacy-centric reporting improvements will equip you with the more real-time, comprehensive, and accurate representation of your Google App Campaign performance. Particularly on iOS, we'll be able to provide better reporting for app events from users using iOS 14 and later devices. In the coming months, this will be available in beta, starting with select APs. Please note, Google Ads reporting will see little to no differences in reporting. All the differences and all the changes will transpire in your MMP reporting services. This innovative solution is based on an exclusive on-device conversion measurement using event data. I want to walk you through some of the steps that happen after a user installs the app to really understand how the solution works at a high level. For an example, the first step after you install the app is the MMP sends Google an attribution request for the app install conversion. That's the first step. The second step will be that Google responds, indicating whether the conversion belongs to Google and whether the conversion is deterministic or probabilistic, in which case we will add several device parameters to the conversion, such as timestamp or campaign ID. The MMP then validates the response using proprietary algorithms. If the response is validated by the MMP, is not validated by the MMP, the claim is not eligible for attribution and obviously will be discarded. However, if the response is validated by the MMP, the claim then moves forward as a candidate for last click attribution. The MMP will attribute the install to Google, and then it will report the attribution to you as an advertiser, and obviously will notify us, Google, as an ad network that we've been credited with the install. So these are the three simple steps that how integrated conversion measurement works at a high level. You might be also wondering, what types of signals do we use to validate our results and increase the accuracy of the conversion claims? We actually look at a bunch of different signals, but here's a non-exhaustive list of data we cross-check. For example, device type, time of day, geographic location, as well as the operating system of the device on which the app was installed. All of this data put together gives us a pretty good understanding of what we claim and of what your MMP partner validates in order to meet the highest standards of accuracy. Let's move on to understand what you need to do as an advertiser in order to take advantage of the integrated conversion measurement solution. First of all, on Android, there's no action required. The reporting will come out of the box. Let's talk about what steps you need to take for iOS. Obviously, the first step is to implement the on-device conversion measurement solution using event data by updating to the latest version of the Google Analytics for Firebase SDK available as of this week. The second step will be to upgrade to the latest version of your App Attribution Partner SDK or MMP SDK whenever available. Please reach out to your respective MMP for more information on timelines. The last step, depending on which MMP you use, will be to enable or toggle on probabilistic attribution for the MMP that required it. In this case, for example, if you are an advertiser that uses AppStar or Adjust, you will need to proactively go in the UI and enable this toggle in the reporting dashboard. Please reach out to more information to your MMP. Now, I wanted to provide a more detailed view of all the possible integrations available. Let's talk about each use case to understand what the necessary steps are. Let's start with the first use case, which is if you're using an app attribution partner for your attribution use case. In this first case, if you're using an SDK, you will need to perform two actions. One is to implement the on-device conversion measurement using event data, and the second step, update your AEP SDK. The second use case is if you're using a server-to-server connection with your MMP or with your app attribution partner. In this case, the first step you will need to do is implement on-device conversion measurement using event data. And the second step, you will need to fetch what we call the ODM info string, which is essentially a piece of information that is required, and pass it back server-side to your MMP. The third and last case is only for those of you that are not using an app attribution partner, and you are instead using the app conversion tracking API directly with Google for attribution purposes. You will need to use the newer version of the app conversion API v1.1 available in June. I also love to make sure everybody in the audience understands two key considerations for ICM. First, it is important to note that integrated conversion measurement will not cover iOS traffic originating from users in the European Economic Area, the United Kingdom, and Switzerland. For this portion of traffic, we recommend you continue using your current measurement solution, whether that's CAN or the Google Ads front-end reporting. Integrated conversion measurement will cover this traffic starting later this year in Q4, and you'll hear more from your Google team close to the date. And with that, I'll love to pass it on to my colleague Rachel, who will talk about the new bidding solutions.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm Rachel, and I am a global product lead on bidding and optimization. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about our latest bidding strategies. So first, I want to start off with great announcement that iOS TROS is here. I'm going to take you down with some best practices guidance along the way. But first, I want to start by taking a quick trip down memory lane. I think it's fascinating to consider how relatively young the app ecosystem is. The Apple App Store launched in 2008 and Google Play followed in 2012. And less than 2 decades ago, this entire industry was in its infancy, let alone even existed. And initially, when these platforms exploded onto the scene, the primary objective for app advertisers was very clear. How do I climb those coveted top charts in the App Store? And I think App Store rankings were the only thing that mattered at that time. And while chart position still remains a consideration today, the industry has matured significantly. We then saw advertisers shift to caring for installs, but realizing that acquisition may just be the first step. And we saw another shift when they started caring for in-app events. And this is the first time that we see the app industry move towards quality over a place of quantity. And I want to be clear that these goals, chart position, install volume, in-app actions remain fundamentally important today. They are still very valid and very relevant goals for many app campaigns. However, we're seeing a powerful transformation yet again, and that is advertisers increasingly shifting their focus towards bidding towards value. And they're looking for beyond the immediate actions and optimizing towards return on investment, ensuring that every single advertising dollar generates a profitable return. And so how does value-based bidding even work? These are app campaigns that are going to be finding new users that are likely going to complete your selected in-app action to achieve a return on ad spend within your selected window. And for our value-based bidding products, this really only requires 2 things. The first is bidding on Google Analytics for Firebase, and the second is achieving a high volume of events in your conversion window. And I want to mention that while the requirements are few, I don't want to let you off the hook just yet. So there are many best practices I will get to a little bit later. But because we saw this trend of advertisers shifting their focus to caring for value, we built an entire bidding suite of products to support this. And so we have our standard Target ROAS product optimizing towards in-app events, and we see most frequently this be in-app events like purchases. We also have ad revenue. So we also call this ARO, or ad revenue optimization. And this is optimizing towards in-app ads or ad interactions. And then what if you're an advertiser that cares about both? You care about in-app ads and you care about in-app purchases or some other in-app event. And that's where TROS Hybrid comes in. This is a bidding strategy that empowers leveraging multiple monetization strategies. So I'd like to shift gears to talk about the reason why we're probably all here today for iOS Day, the elephant in the room. We know that we've had TROS available for Android for years, and we've seen exponential growth for advertisers, specifically in the last few years, and that's across every vertical. We have gaming, fintech, social, retail, streaming, travel. Every single app vertical, we have a success case just like these. And so it's exciting to see a shift in apps diversity here as well. I think when TROS first launched, gaming apps were the majority of our early adopters, and we're now seeing non-gaming apps embracing TROS and growing as well. So this further emphasizes how broadly the TROS strategy is becoming. It's now the #1 bidding strategy across all of Google App Campaigns. And I'm very excited to share that it is now in general availability for iOS. We see that iOS users are typically higher value because they spend more, they typically have more engagement, and they also generate a higher lifetime value. And so it's really important to diversify your bidding strategy across operating systems and optimize for both iOS and Android alike. I think there's a couple of nuances here that I'd like to share about our ideal audience that may differ from what we see on Android. Of course, we want the ideal audience to be using ROAS as a primary metric for their app campaigns. They want to achieve a target return on ad spend. They send dynamic conversion values. They're utilizing Firebase bidding. And the biggest one here is that they're collecting IDFA consented conversions. And I'll get to that a little bit more in a future slide. And so you may be wondering what's new with iOS to ROAS, why now, what's changed? As a result of implementing the ATT prompt on YouTube, our overall ground truth has improved. And therefore, the stability within our app campaigns for target ROAS has been improved as well. We're now using a combination of IDFA or consented conversions along with modeled conversions. And so our consented conversions from ATT or ODM are what inform our modeled conversions. And so this will improve our overall accuracy in modeling. And then lastly, due to the lack of ground truth that we had, we were also severely under predicting. So this should absolutely improve advertiser ROI. And after a detailed analysis, we're really excited to share that we're seeing amazing results in just a few months post-launch. Advertisers using TROAS bidding with their iOS app campaigns for installs saw a median 22% increase in ROAS. So as I mentioned, it's important to show up on both operating systems to diversify your app's business. But there are some nuances that I'd like to highlight when it comes to Android versus iOS. The first one being where you measure your performance. And I think on Android, it's a bit simpler. You have Google Ads front end, you have Firebase, or you have your AAPs. However, on iOS, there's one more in the mix, and that's SK Ad Network. The reason why I bring this up is I think it's really important to share with your account team where you are measuring performance and what reports you're looking at so that you can be on the same page. The next one here is what kind of measurement you'll have. We have deterministic on Android, but on iOS, it's a combination of deterministic and probabilistic. And so we really want to have a substantial amount of ground truth when it comes to your observed conversions that will come from ATT prompt opt-ins or ODM event data. Great. So the next thing I want to touch on are some best practices. And I think it's really important, maybe more than ever, to follow the best practices on TROAS when it comes to iOS. This is a bit more complicated, a bit more nuanced, as you can see. So the best practices really go a long way. The first one is making sure that the selected event you're optimizing for has a minimum of 10 unique events per day that ideally are dynamic values. And we're looking for 10 at a minimum, but the more, the better. And this is IDFA or opted-in conversions. I also want to mention that it's not only scan conversions, it's the consented conversions here that will really make a difference. The next one is setting an appropriate conversion window. A shorter window will allow the model to learn faster, but a longer window will capture more conversions. So it's really important to consider the trade-off for your business and what window is appropriate for you. We also recommend waiting about 2 to 3 cycles of your conversion window to fairly evaluate your performance. The next one here is setting an appropriate ROAS. And so we really recommend starting off with a TCPA campaign to determine what a feasible and realistic return on ad spend is for your app. This also helps in a number of other ways. The campaign learnings will stay at both the app ID and CID levels. So this results in faster ramp-up times and less fluctuations when you're first starting out your TROAS campaigns. And the last one here is lowering your target ROAS for more scale. I think we hear a lot of challenges with scale when it comes to target ROAS campaigns. And if you're seeing that your campaign has almost no traffic, it's typically really related to being bid constrained. And so lowering your target ROAS can actually propel your campaign to learn faster and scale a lot more. So you may be wondering what's coming next, what's on the roadmap. And with that, I'm really excited to share a suite of iOS optimization products are very much in the works. And so the first one here, I think is very long awaited. It's ARO for iOS. And that is in beta today. So this is using that in-app ad optimization on a target ROAS bidding strategy. So really excited to offer this in beta and see how it progresses later this year. The next one is Max Events and Max Value. This is definitely a newer product. It is in beta as of today. And this is an expansion from our Max Installs product, which you may be familiar with. This is going to maximize your budget to get the most conversions, the highest amount of conversion volume possible. And so you'll be optimizing and only using a lever of a budget rather than having a target involved. So this is really great for burst campaigns. This is really great for scale. This is also really great if you don't necessarily know what an appropriate target might be for your app. So a lot of great use cases there. The last one is Scan Event Integration, and this is a great product to integrate your scan conversion value schema if you use SK Ad Network as your primary source of truth. And so this product will actually integrate your scan conversion value schema to provide additional signals for optimization. And that is in beta as well. So thank you all so much. That is the end of my slides. We really appreciate your attendance on the live stream, and we saw a bunch of questions. So we are going to transition over to a live Q&A, and I am very much supported by the rest of my colleagues here. And so I think we'll open it up to questions now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rachel, Josh, Vlad, Layli. All of this was so helpful, so much information. Hopefully you took this all in. And right now we're going to jump into Q&A and have some additional product partners as well, Jen and Sehun, so we can jump into the questions. So our first question is how to improve and scale iOS app campaigns. This is a question everyone wants to know. And Josh, I'm going to hand it over to you to give us some tips.
Thanks, Deborah. Yeah, I think Rachel touched on this a bit in her section, but I think about improving iOS app campaigns in a couple of dimensions. The first of which is, as you heard from Rachel, our systems really need event level conversion information to achieve your goal. And so it's really important to send a variety of conversion signals, such as conversions stemming from on-device measurement, both of the variants that we have, both the first-party data variant as well as on-device measurement, our newest variant with event data. So having these technologies implemented is increasingly important, as well as conversions stemming from the ATT prompt. So we want to make sure that we're sending our systems as many event level deterministic conversions as possible. Second, I also think about setting the right bidding goal for your business objectives. I think, as you heard from Rachel as well, there's a variety of bidding goals in products that we have to achieve, but it's really important that you're working with your Google team to be using the products that are a fit for your business. So making sure that you have a bidding type and you're following the best practices for those goals. And then lastly, I'll say that maximizing creatives to increase campaign scale is increasingly important as well. As I mentioned at the top of the conversation, we have a variety of inventory sources that are available, both video, text, and image. So if you're not maximizing your creatives, you're not going to be able to participate in some of those formats. And so creatives is extremely important. I'll end by saying when we talk about improving and scaling campaigns, that can also mean how do I measure campaigns in and of itself. So I do think it's important to understand what are you confident in terms of your measurement approach and how you're going to be allocating your budgets across networks. And I think we have some questions later on in the Q&A about measurement, and so we'll have that discussed.
Great. Thank you, Josh. And I will say, if anyone else has anything to add, please jump in on our product team. Okay, our second question. How can I address the attribution and tracking issues with iOS 14 plus? Vlad, I think you can take this one.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to. I think I'll address it first by alluding to the earlier solution that I just presented. So we launched a new solution called Integrated Conversion Measurement, which addresses the measurement gaps posed by ATT. And this new solution will actually provide real-time event-level attribution for users on iOS 14 plus devices where tracking is limited, right? The reporting will be available in your AP/MMP reporting as part of the probabilistic tier, right? So I think it's important to differentiate that. Therefore, I think what you should expect once you implement the solution is that the amount of conversions you see reported in your MMP will significantly increase. Integrated conversion measurement will gradually roll out over the coming months. We're now in beta. You can reach out to your MMP for more information. But again, I want to reiterate, in order to take advantage of the solution, you need to perform two key steps. The first one of which is implement on-device conversion measurement using event data. You can do so by updating to the latest version of the Google Analytics for Firebase SDK, available as of this week. And then the second important step is to update your MMP SDK to the latest version, right? And again, I do encourage you that we're rolling out right now, so it's not available at scale for everybody, but we're in beta. If you want to learn more about the solution, reach out to your specific MMP for more information.
Great. Thank you so much, Vlad. Let's move to the next question. How about, this is a great one about TROS, and we touched on this a little bit. Maybe we can get a bit more. What are the best practices to set up events for TROS campaigns for iOS? Rachel.
Yes, happy to take this one. So I did touch on a couple of things, but maybe I can go a bit deeper. So the first one I see is maybe using a TCPA campaign to find a realistic target. This is great for finding your achieved ROAS from that TCPA campaign and using that as your initial bid. You can even get a little bit more ramp up and quicker speed if you are a little bit more aggressive, maybe start with a bit lower of a target than you actually achieved. The campaign learnings will stay at the CID and App ID level, so really great for a faster ramp up. The second tip I'd say is sending dynamic values with ideally high variance. So the bigger the variance, the more it tells our models and our systems that a specific conversion value matters more to your business. And so, for example, if the conversion values were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the difference between a conversion value 5 and conversion value 1 is 5x. So clearly that means it's worth a lot more than maybe conversion value 1, and our systems will optimize accordingly. I think Josh mentioned this. I also mentioned this, but it's so important to hit on home is ground truth and event volume is really going to make a huge difference on target ROAS. And so looking for increasing your app's ground truth, and that can be achieved through a couple things. So one is implementing the ATT prompt, opting into ODM event data, and then lastly, using your bid and budget levers as a means to get more campaign volume. The more IDFA or consented conversions that you have, the better your performance will be. So I'll pause there. I think those are a lot. So
We'll see
thank
if we
you.
have some follow-up there. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, great. Let's move to the next question. There we go. Thank you. Which one is better to use, Firebase or third parties when it comes to all channel level attribution? Vlad, I think I can give this one over to you as well.
Yeah, happy to take this one as well. I think this question has some nuances, so I'll try to see if I understand correctly, but please let us know. I think, first of all, it's important to distinguish between optimization, campaign optimization, and campaign measurement / attribution. So for optimization purposes, you can use either Firebase events or third-party MMP events. But I think as alluded before by Rachel and Josh, Firebase events are required for benefits such as TROS bidding or the future performance uplift from our on-device measurement solution, right? If we're talking about measurement and attribution, which seems to be the case here which seems what the question is about, through our integrated conversion measurement solution, Google will provide real-time event-level attribution in your MMP AP reporting, right? So therefore, you can actually do both. You can let's say you can continue bidding on Firebase events and use your MMPs for attribution purposes. But overall, if we really are talking about attribution, it's important to have your MMP events correctly set up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The question as old as time. Firebase at third party. All right, great. Let's go to the next question. It's asking about the need to update the Apple framework for scan reporting. The question or ask, perhaps I guess I can translate to, is Google Ads needing to shift to Scan 4? Jen, I think I'll give this one to you and you can introduce yourself first.
Yeah, sounds good. My name's Jen. I'm a product manager for iOS measurement, and we have been getting questions around the support for Scan 4. It is important to note that Google ACI does in fact support parts of Scan 4 frameworks, such as web chat conversion measurement. As of early 2024, search conversions stemming from Safari browsers are accounted for in Scan reporting, but we do want to note that Google App Ads has indefinitely decided to delay support for coarse conversion values specifically as a component of Scan 4. So I would still reference Scan 3 in terms of support in terms of CVs.
Great, thank you. I think the really important part here is that Scan is, search is included and represented. So I'm going to give this next one to you as well. Speaking about Scan, what is the role of Scan versus the advanced features that we have discussed here today?
Yeah, it's super exciting to see the advancement in terms of our technology for us to enable measurement. As we kind of develop this technology and we continue to train our models on some of this data, Google will continue to support Scan as a best practice for advertisers. And we do encourage advertisers to start adopting ICM as a solution and using that as an additional method on top of Scan as their best practice. Long term, we do want to enable more advertiser choice in terms of deciding what measurement framework is the best suited for them, whether or not that be Scan or fully probabilistic. But in the near term, we do encourage you to look at your Scan numbers as a best practice in terms of the Google AdWords UI.
Great, thank you. Lots of Scan unknowns here, so I'm glad we can provide some direction. Great. Okay, this one, this may be a two-part question. I'll start with the first part. Given SK ad network limitations, how does Google Ads handle delayed and limited postback data when optimizing for ROAS on iOS? Sehun, I'll have the same question for you. If you can introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Sehun, and I'm a product manager from the App Campaigns team working on iOS optimization. So this question is about TROS. Unless your campaign is part of the scan event integration beta, we do not use post-install scan signals for optimization today. If this is something that is interesting to you, as a side note, I would ask you to look into the scan event integration beta. Coming back to, for most regular TROS campaigns, there are no additional scan challenges that are specific to target ROAS. Just like all the other iOS ACI campaigns, TROS campaigns will still use install signals and will require sufficient ramp-up time when they're first created.
Great. And I think there is a second part maybe of this question.
Mhm.
There we go. Is Google using modeled data to estimate user value in iOS ROAS campaigns? And if so, how reliable is this data compared to MMP reported revenue? So you can all give us what you think.
Got it. I think the question is about the model data. So TROS optimization models utilize ground truth data to model users' conversion value to optimize the campaigns. And these ground truth data are sourced from ATT consented IDFA data, as well as data collected via on-device measurement solutions. In regards to reporting, discrepancy between modeled conversions on our Google Ads front end versus the MMP reporting is to be expected, as they use different attribution windows and they're just differences on how the conversions are attributed. In regards to how much will really depend on what AAP reporting you're referring to. So there will be a little bit of variance in regards to discrepancies as well.
Awesome. Great. All right, let's see what other questions we have coming. As questions are coming in, we will add these in and try to get to as many as we possibly can. please. Waiting for the next one to come up.
I think I can interject to maybe introduce the next question. I think this might be a fit for Vlad in discussing integrated conversion measurement. I think we have a question from the audience on, would integrated conversion measurement increase data discrepancies with other app analytics? It depends what you mean by that. Maybe can you talk about how ICM will influence numbers in third parties?
Yeah, happy to. So I think you alluded perfectly. The question was like discrepancies with other app analytics. It does matter kind of which app analytics we're talking about, but I'll talk about what ICM does at a high level and then what potential discrepancies can arise as a result of that. So ICM, once you adopt it, essentially what you will see is Google will start claiming more iOS conversions in your MMP reporting into the probabilistic tier. To give a practical example, if before we only showed the deterministic conversions, so the where the users accepted the ATT prompt, we're now going to be able to claim those conversions where tracking is limited. So you'll see a lot more conversions coming through in your MMP reporting. As far as the discrepancies are concerned, I think depending on the app analytics provider you use, if that app analytics provider cannot assimilate probabilistic conversions in it, then you are correct that there can be some data discrepancies as a result of that. Again, I cannot comment on the specific app analytics provider, but let's say if there's a specific platform that can only report on deterministic traffic, your MMP reporting will start claiming probabilistic traffic. So you should see some discrepancies in the data you observe. But overall, if you just look at your MMP reporting and you compare Google with other ad networks, let's say Meta, TikTok, or other networks that you may be using, you shouldn't see any discrepancies, obviously.
Okay. And this next, is this the question you answered?
No, I think there's a
Okay, so
second.
the next question then is, sorry, thank you. Do we need to have both Google's conversion modeling and Apple's SK ad network set up to measure the conversions? Also, what is the use of MMPs in measuring the success of iOS campaigns? All of these three work together, or do they have to be individually measured? Who would like to take this one?
Yeah, I can take this one. Yeah, just to clarify, the two frameworks that we talked about are kind of frameworks within iOS measurement that work today for Google. So within the Google AdWords UI, we do have modeled conversions, and Apple SK Ad Network is a way that you can measure reported conversions on a more aggregated level. So from an advertiser perspective, what you see in terms of your reporting on the Google AdWords side is not going to change. Rather, we're increasing our representation with MMPs, who we know are critical partners for a lot of our advertisers, for us to look at kind of source of truth and aggregated last click attribution. And so this is more so an additional tool for advertisers to be able to choose, no matter if they just rely on the Google AdWords UI or the MMP or their BI system, we will support all these different types of forms of measurement so that you can have confidence in Google conversions. So there's minimal changes that are needed outside of if you want to see more probabilistic conversions, you will need to one, contact your MMP in terms of making sure that you're opted in to ICM, as well as to have the ODM SDK installed. So this is just an additional step if you want more representation here via your BI or MMP, but nothing on the Google AdWords side is changing. In terms of the second question around the use of MMPs, we just have seen that in the ecosystem that a lot of advertisers choose to use an MMP, and we want to meet the advertiser in terms of where they are with their measurement. So it's completely optional if you want to use ICM as a way to increase your representation within the MMP. But if you're happy with the Google AdWords UI or the recurrent reporting that you're using within Scan, that's also works for you as well. So it's kind of meeting the advertiser where they are in terms of their core needs and trying to create an ecosystem that works holistically for measurement.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate that. I think we can go back to the conversion windows question. Great. So this question is around, how do you know which conversion window would work best for our product? And Sahun or Rachel, I think you could take this one. It'd be great.
Yeah, I can take this one. So I'm really glad you asked this because I think this question comes up a lot. And related on this is what is an ideal conversion window in general? And I think the answer is it depends. You always want to make sure that your post-install window is longer than your install window. This is actually a really common mistake that we see a lot with app campaign setup, specifically on Target ROAS. And long windows, there's a trade-off between long windows and short windows. So long windows will allow us to optimize for your long-term value, capture more conversions, but they also slow our and your ability to evaluate performance and for the campaigns to adapt to new learnings. Whereas short attribution windows learn quickly and react quickly, but optimize towards shorter term goals. And so you want to choose a window where ideally a majority of your conversions, so over 50%, are happening within the window that you choose. But if the window that you care about is longer than you typically wait to judge performance, it may be worth considering optimizing for some sort of proxy conversion that happens more frequently in a shorter window.
Rachel, would you say that this is something that you should play around with, or you should really sort of look at how your data comes in and make a judgment from there?
Yeah, I think there could be an element of trial and error for sure, but I do think when you're looking at the data, you can most likely see where the majority of your conversions are coming in and what time frame. So I would optimize based off of that.
Great tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. So event identifier will help with the attribution between installs and the ad served. That's the question. And this would bypass ATT restrictions. This is a great question. Layli, I would love for you to take this one.
Happy to take this one. No, in fact, on-device measurement with event ID is compliance with ATT, and it preserves user privacy. So it is not bypassing ATT, the other way around.
Great. Let's make sure we debunk that if someone is concerned. Thank you. Okay, next question. What is the minimum optimal user consent rate on ATT to maximize Google Ads performance? The magic question. Anyone want to take this one?
I can answer that. With on-device measurement that we are having, on-device measurement with PII and on-device measurement with event ID, we are helping to attribute click and conversion when there is no consent. So there is no optimal required ATT consent on users.
I would maybe add to that as well that we do find that the average for ATT consented traffic can normally be around 20%. We think that's a pretty good baseline for any app that does prompt for ATT consent for IDFA conversions as well. So we do recommend both ATT, IDFA consented conversions, as well as conversions from on-device measurement to increase campaign performance.
I think we can say more data, better. I'll agree on that.
And to Deborah's point, more ground truth data to train bidding models is better, and it improves better reporting, better campaign performance. However, if you don't have, there is no like minimum that it needs to be there. On-device measurement is built to address that click conversion attribution when there is no consent, while respecting users' privacy and being, ATT compliant.
Thank you, Liv. Okay, our next question. This is a good one that I always hear when I talk to customers. Is it okay to run ARO, IAP with ROAS, hybrid ROAS campaigns at the same time? If yes, wouldn't they compete with each other? Rachel or Sahun, I can give you this one.
Yeah, I can take this one. So it's a really good question. And I think the answer is when you want to run these types of campaigns together, the answer is actually using hybrid ROAS should cover it all. And so a really great part of Target ROAS campaigns is you can optimize towards multiple events, regardless if it's ARO, IAP ROAS, or hybrid ROAS. You can actually put in, for example, a sign up and a purchase and optimize towards different events at the same time because they have different conversion values. Our systems and models will optimize towards the highest conversion value, regardless if you have multiple events in there. However, the idea of the hybrid campaign is really when you have multiple monetization strategies. So it's a really good tool to avoid cannibalization, avoid campaign competition, and just use one campaign type, and that would be hybrid in this case. But I do want to emphasize that running these types of campaigns together with this in the same geo will absolutely compete, and therefore most likely hurt performance and scale.
Pick one.
So yeah, pick one.
Fair enough. Okay, next question. This is another one around conversion windows, and we talked about this a little bit, but the question is around reducing conversion windows. Will that impact campaign scaling? Rachel, I think you talked about this a little bit in terms of longer windows, shorter windows, but maybe you can take this again.
Suhin, do you want to cover this one?
Yeah, I can cover this one. Yeah, we just talked about the different conversion window. So let's talk a little bit about the impact of when you're changing the conversion window. So here the question is like, what happens if I reduce the conversion window, and like what will happen to the scale? And I think also here, I'm assuming that we're talking about post-install event window. So let's say we reduce the window from 30 days to 7 days. The number of conversions that we will likely capture is going to be smaller, even though we maintain the same level of performance. So because of that, when we reduced the conversion window, the overall ROI would look worse compared to when you had a longer conversion window. So keeping that in mind, reducing conversion window has to be accompanied by updating the target appropriately, given the difference in how much conversions are we capturing for this campaign. So if you're considering reducing the conversion window, my recommendation would be to take a look at what percentage of your conversions are happening in this example 7 days versus 30 days, and to scale your target appropriately so that you can maintain the same scale. And the increased target CPA or lower target ROAS, as well as reported CPA and reported ROAS may look worse, but that's just because the window that we captured a conversion is now lower, not necessarily because the actual performance has decreased.
Great. Super helpful. Thank you. Okay, this is a nice long one and a really interesting one as well. So this is around a customer that is optimizing using GA4 events, but the source of truth they're looking at in terms of attribution are MMPs. So the question is around how you can minimize the discrepancy between GA4 data versus your MMP data, even with the same conversion window. You may see some discrepancies there. So here, maybe you want to hit this one as well.
Okay. So given that the conversion window is same, the question is, why is there a discrepancy between the data that you see on GA4 and MMP? I'll give it a try to answer this, but I might need Jen's help. So the way that we attribute the conversions on GA4 and MMP have different algorithms. As I understand, MMPs apply a last click based attribution on top of ours. So that may be one of the reasons why you see a difference in the attribution. Jen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that for the data that we're looking at for the integrated conversion measurement, we're looking at a 1 day window versus the window that you'll see within Google AdWords is a longer window. So you will be able to see and track within your MMP basically the changes directionally to Google AdWords. So they should align in terms of when you see a boost in terms of the installs, both aligning with the MMP and the Google AdWords front end to help you minimize one directionally is the data moving the same way so that you can understand how they're in sync, even though the windows may not be exactly the same. Additionally, in terms of the larger reporting that you look at, so for example, for AppsFire's single source of truth data, you'll see that more conversions are represented. And so this will help you provide a more holistic view in terms of where Google is represented in terms of the larger grouping of the pie. But we are working closely in terms of trying to minimize the discrepancies that you see, but you will, once you start integrating ICM alignment between the changes that are happening within the Google AdWords front-end UI and in the MMP.
Maybe I can add like one comment to that. So I think just philosophically, Google Analytics and your MMP are never supposed to align fully, and there are natural discrepancies occurring between the two of them. The biggest difference between them is that your MMP actually provides cross-channel deduplicated attribution, so across other ad networks, versus Google Analytics cannot provide that. So for example, a conversion can be claimed by other ad networks such as Meta in your MMP, so it's not going to appear on your Google reporting, versus that same conversion can be attributed to Google in your Google Analytics reporting. So there are natural reasons coming back to the attribution logic why there are discrepancies, and these will never necessarily match. So just wanted to add that as well.
Yeah, Vlad, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think this philosophically is the right way to put it. One is measuring the total number. One is measuring the cross network. So depending on how many different networks you're using, you could see more of a discrepancy. Always good to look at the two and compare, but they should never match. Okay, next question. Will there be a separate ODM event report on Google Ads dashboard, similar to the scan conversion report, which you can find in Google Ads? Who'd like to take this one?
Yeah, I can speak to it. So as Layli discussed earlier, there's two key benefits that we're really excited about for on-device measurement using event data. The first of which is the performance benefit that will come for campaigns later this year, starting in Q3. And the second is the probabilistic reporting benefit that you'll see changing numbers in your AAP. I think to speak succinctly to this question, there won't be a separate standalone report within Google Ads for ODM event data conversions. However, later this year, those conversions will begin to influence the numbers that you see in the Google Ads front end as well. And so I think the short story is that over the long term, performance will improve both within Google Ads as well as your MMP or AAP partner.
Josh, to add to your point, for web to app campaign, the reporting will be changed in Google UI, and with the update with OD on-device measurement with event ID that is available this week, that report will be available on search. Later, the support will come for YouTube and AdMob. Thank you.
Any additional comments on that one? I think we're covered it. Great. This is an interesting one, spicy. Which MMP do you suggest for better iOS reporting? AppsFlyer, Adjust, or Singular? Which MMP gives better support for iOS? Vlad, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, happy to take that. The good news is all of them will support better iOS reporting. So really, there's no need to choose from any one of them. We're working very closely with all of these partners to reflect our integrated conversion measurement solution, and it's rolling out in beta as of this month. So choose as you see fit. You can learn more on our website, on the App Attribution Partner website.
Very nice, thank you. Trying to make you choose. Okay, next question. It's an interesting one. So, do we need to add anything in the current system if we are using an MMP already? And I'm assuming this is about integrated conversion measurement. How is the new solution, how will it be implemented? Jen, maybe you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take this one. So I think regardless of whatever MMP you decide to use, there are two critical steps. One, to update to the most recent Firebase SDK so that you get ODM integrated onto your app. And two, you will need to update to the most recent SDK as guided by your MMP specifically in terms of ICM support. So these two steps are the same regardless of what MMP you use. There may be additional steps based off of, for example, if you use AppsFlyer, there's an additional toggle that you might need to enable on the UI. So we do recommend you reach out to your MMP on the specific steps that are needed. But regardless of which MMP you use, those two steps in terms of updating the Firebase SDK so that you're on the most recent version for ODM, as well as updating your AAP SDK so that it supports ICM are needed.
And certainly reach out to your sales contact here at Google if you need the exact directions and everything that needs to be done. We have really good documentation on that. Great. No need to take notes. Okay. One more question here I think we have time for. What is the minimum number of daily installs for integrated conversion measurement? Do we have limits or requirements here?
Yeah, happy to take that. There's no necessary minimum number of daily installs. However, we do, obviously, because of on-device, we do need some ground truth data. So we do actually recommend that advertisers either implement EDT as an additional source of truth, and also the on-device measurement solution using event data is still a requirement, but there's no minimum threshold necessarily for the solution.
Great to hear. Thank you, Vlad. I want to thank all of our product speakers today. I'd like to thank all of our customers that have joined. These were awesome questions. Really like to keep my teams on their toes. And so this was great to be able to answer your questions, provide a ton of great information about what the future holds for iOS with Google. And I think we can go to the last slide where we will ask you to... There we go. We're going to ask you to please share your feedback. Please take our survey. You can use the QR code or go to the link that you see there on the slide. And the sooner you give your feedback, the sooner you can win a chance to get some Google swag. So please, thanks you everyone for joining today. Thanks to our product folks for being here to answer questions and to provide all this valuable information. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.